days after the India-China skirmish at the Tawang region of LAC, politics has taken centre stage while the Congress and other opposition parties moved adjournment motions over China's aggression to stall question hour. The centre lashed out at the Congress party. Home Minister Amit Shah led charge of the Congress-China tango, alleging that the grand old party was jittery as Parliament's question hour was supposed to discuss the issue of Chinese funds for the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. He further demanded that the Congress must clarify why in the peak of the Galwan skirmish, Gandhis had a secret meeting with the Chinese envoy in 2017. Shah also reminded the Congress of its secret MOU with China in 2008. Listen in.
1 इंच जमीन पर भी कोई कब्जा नहीं कर सकता। 5 नंबर का प्रश्न देखकर मैं इनकी चिंता समझ गया। 5 नंबर के प्रश्न है राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन के FCRA रजिस्ट्रेशन को रद्द करने के बारे में कि राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन को 2005-6 और 6-7 के वित्तीय साल में चीनी दूतावास से 1 करोड़ 35 लाख रुपए का अनुदान प्राप्त हुआ था। चूंकि FCRA के कानून और उसकी मर्यादाओं के अनुरूप नहीं था, जिस वक्त गलवान के अंदर हमारे सेना के वीर जवान चीनियों से भिड़ रहे थे, उस वक्त चीनी दूतावास के अधिकारियों को कौन रात्रि भोज दे रहा था?
Now, for its part, the Congress party has hit back through a flurry of tweets and reactions, firing 7 posers at the BJP. The Congress raised questions on the Prime Minister's meetings with Xi Jinping in the past and also questioned the links between the BJP and the Communist Party of China. The Congress also raked up a delegation-level meeting of the BJP and RSS back in 2009. Listen in to how the Congress fired back after the Home Minister's attack.
राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन को अगर कोई पैसा दिया, वो इकोनॉमिक टाइज को कैसे इंप्रूव करना है उसकी स्टडी के लिए दिया। और फाउंडेशंस पूरे विश्व से लगातार अलग अलग जगह से पैसे लेती हैं, सार्वजनिक पटल पे होता है वो। लेकिन इंडिया फाउंडेशन और विवेकानंद फाउंडेशन के चीन से क्या संबंध है, उसका खुलासा कीजिए गृह मंत्री जी। भारतीय जनता पार्टी जब चीन की कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी से मिलने 14 लोग गए तो क्या तय हुआ? यह तय हुआ कि दोनों विश्व की सबसे बड़ी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैं, इनका अलायंस होना चाहिए और एक ग्लोबल पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज अलायंस बनना चाहिए। हमने तो नहीं कहा साहब ने क्या MOU साइन करके आए। चीन की वो कौन कौन सी कंपनियां हैं जिन्होंने PM केयर फंड में पैसा दिया और क्यों दिया, बताइए।
The Rajiv Gandhi Foundation donation is not the cause of the Chinese intrusion in Arunachal Pradesh.
Ridiculous and baseless allegation. This shows that both the ministers are at opposite ends, because the defense minister has claimed himself that China has illegally occupied Indian territory. Home Minister continued to mention that the Chinese have occupied not a single inch. So this is a deliberate strategy to hide the fact that for the past 4 days, this government was concealing the truth from the people of India.
All right, joining us on the show, we have Colonel S Dinny, defense expert, Tuhin A, spokesperson of the BJP, George Kurian, political analyst. But I want to first go across to General Ved Malik, former chief of army staff. Sir, how much do you think India has leeway in dealing with China? We have an economic relationship with them. Our business ties have not been severed, cannot be severed, and this kind of aggression continues.
I think the answer has already been given by the foreign minister, our foreign minister, when he said that the most important issue between India and China in our relationship is the border issue. And therefore, unless there is peace and tranquility along the border, our relations will never be normal, or will not be normal. And therefore, I also feel that there is a deliberate effort on the part of China not to resolve the border. I have been involved myself on border talks at different levels. And I can make out that they are not interested in resolving the LSC issue because they do not wish to mark the line of actual control on the maps. And unless you mark this line of actual control on the map, you will not be able to prevent the skirmishes which are taking place. Incidentally, the skirmish that took place on the 9th of August is in an area which has been, I would say, quite active right from the time when we started talking to PLA officers on the line of actual control issue. Right from 1990s, this area has been considered as one of the disputed areas, and therefore it was marked as such. During Kargil War also, let me remind you that the Chinese had carried out aggression in this area. They brought in very large number of people in the month of July 1999, and our confrontation with them continued till the end of September. And it was only after that that they withdrew back to their own location because they couldn't move anything forward. So this area has been sensitive. It cannot be resolved unless we mark the line of actual control or come to some understanding on the line of actual control in these areas. And the Chinese have refused to do that. We have spoken to them at the military level, at the diplomatic level, and I'm sure even the prime minister level also this has been raised. But if they just refuse to do this thing and make a deliberate effort of provoking you time and again, as it has happened now, and this is despite the fact that we have been talking to them at diplomatic level as well as 16 talks at the military level to resolve these issues. Despite all that which has been going on in the last 2.5 years, they have yet carried out this very deliberate, provocative action in which before 9th of December, they brought in large number of troops. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, they tried to intrude into our area. And I'm glad that our troops gave the right answer to them. And I think I have no doubt that our troops are quite firm. We have also strengthened our position all along in the last 2.5 years. And we can give them a knockout blow in case they come again in these areas. The situation is not 1962. It is now, we are talking about 2022, in which it's not only the army is going to fight, we have a position in which the Army, Air Force, and all the three services will be able to participate.
General Malik, sir, since you compared with 62, now if we look at the Chinese situation, earlier they had about 1 battalion in the area on their side. Now, reportedly, they have something to the tune of 3 battalions. They've got dual-purpose villages in the area at the LAC with us, and they've got metal roads on the Tibetan plateau. Where do we stand vis-a-vis China and the fact that they've settled several civilians and this whole issue of dual-purpose villages increased troop buildup?
Yes. Again, I would say this is an issue which is provocative. They did not have the situation like this earlier. If you recall what happened in Galwan, was during that period they had brought in 3-4 divisions which were carrying out an exercise, and then they carried out the aggression. So all these actions that they have taken, improved the infrastructure, brought in extra troops into in these areas, and also constructed villages which are not only meant for civilians, but also for the military personnel, including their intelligence personnel, etc. So these are provocative actions, and they do not really mean that they are interested in resolving the LAC issue or bringing about peace and tranquility. And because of that, we unfortunately also have to carry out similar actions. We have strengthened our deployments in these areas, and we are also in the process of improving our infrastructure that is going on. At the moment, let me tell you one thing, that we will be quite firm, I have no doubt about it, and we will not commit any intrusion of the kind that has taken place maybe in the past.
I want to ask you finally, sir, a lot of times, because this is the era of communication, some things, because the general public sees them in the public eye, they get magnified. But as a soldier yourself, somebody who has over decades seen our LAC, how we function, how our relationship with the Chinese troops has been at the LAC, would you say what happened on the 9th of December is not terribly out of the ordinary, that this is fairly commonplace since decades?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, these things have been happening. And but the only difference I can mention here is that after almost 2.5 years, we've had this kind of a skirmish in Arunachal Pradesh. You know, last so many years, Arunachal Pradesh was quite quiet on the border, on the line of actual control, although it is a sensitive area. And as I said earlier, it is a disputed area. But this is happening, and because of the ground situation and the LSE not being marked on the maps, I think we have to be prepared for anything. You know, you cannot be taken by surprise, as we did in Galwan Valley when they brought in those extra divisions and carried out the incursions in Galwan Valley. So we have to be prepared not only at the tactical level, but even at the strategic level, because I see absolutely no change in their attitude. Although they may be wanting to speak to our diplomats, they may be wanting to speak to our military level people, but the attitude along the line of actual control, there is absolutely no change. And therefore, both tactically as well as strategically, we have to be prepared to take them on if they carry out further intrusions.
General Ved Malik, thank you very much for speaking to us and for sharing your wisdom with us. Let me take this across to our guest joining us now. George Kurian, today we had a very interesting demand being made in Parliament, which said that an all-party delegation should be taken to Tawang. Do you support that demand?
Well, I don't believe that will hold much importance. But the point here is that, you know, the opposition demanded a discussion in the floor of the House, so there is nothing wrong in it. I think it's fairly right on their part. Having said that, I strongly believe that cancellation of the license of FCRA will hold. How will that help fight against the rising inflation, bring growing unemployment in the country, rising fuel prices, falling Indian rupee against the US dollar, growing religious tensions and polarization in the country, income disparity? You let me know. The audience and the citizen of this country today want to know how are their lives going to be improved.
So, Tuhin Sinha, you cancelled Rajiv Gandhi Foundation's FCRA license. That didn't stop the Chinese.
No, I think, you know, a provocateur will carry all out with its tactics, but they will equally be responded in the manner in which our troops have responded. And that is the crucial difference in the last few years. Whether it was Doklam, whether it was Galwan Valley, or whether it was Tawang, we have responded to the Chinese forces with a certain ferocity which they did not expect. You can compare it with the time of the Congress regime, where A.K. Antony would make a statement like, we are consciously not developing infrastructure along our border areas because not developing infrastructure is our best defense bet against the Chinese.
But why do you bring up the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation today? Is there the insinuation that the UPA did not develop infrastructure because they were getting money to Rajiv Gandhi Foundation?
Very strongly believe, we very strongly believe that issues around national security should not be politicized. But given the Congress party's malafide, tendency to trivialize such issues, we had to remind them of certain unpleasant facts regarding their association with the Chinese. Wasn't it the fact that wasn't it a fact?
George Kurian?
Well, I strongly believe that, you know, cancellation of the FCRA license to the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, going against the rule, fine, it's fine. But, you know, it doesn't help the nation as a whole as far as all these issues that the country is going through at this point in time. Having said that, the Indian Armed Forces, we should commend the Indian Armed Forces.
No, sir, how do you respond to the insinuation, Mr. Kurian, that there was almost a quid pro quo? Rajiv Gandhi Foundation gets money and then there is lethargy when it comes to supporting the army?
Well, not really. I don't see there is any much of
there is no quid pro quo. Tuhin Sinha, where is the proof?
You know, in 2017, when Indian forces were extremely resilient for over 6 weeks, and they gave a fitting reply to the Chinese forces at Doklam, Rahul Gandhi had made a very clear statement that I went to the Chinese embassy to find out details about the conflict, which clearly shows that he trusts the Chinese embassy more than our defense minister. So with this kind of an attitude, how can you get them to think about national interests? And our point is very clear. We trust the army implicitly. The army has been responding very well in the border.
Mr.
And I
Kurian,
don't think that we need, the Congress's attempt to browbeat the government every time there is a conflict is very shameful.
Well, I don't quite agree to what Tuhin A has just said about this. See, the whole matter of the fact is that the BJP is trying to cover up the false promises that they have made to the nation, and then not able to kind of come up to that level of governance model in the country and looking ahead at 2024. So they need to capitalize on such issues to just to powder coat it. And I strongly believe that as far as the LOC, the line of actual control is concerned, right from Ladakh up till Tawang, from the western to the eastern part, the army has been doing its best, but it's only that the government at the center is trying to capitalize on every opportunity that they get to corner Congress party in the subject.
Okay.
And
I don't want to drag you into political matters, but do you, as a military man, Colonel Dinny, sincerely believe or seriously believe that there could have been a quid pro quo of this kind?
Padmaja ma'am, I don't know how many times I have been in your own show discussing about this politicization of the national security issues, and especially when Galwan thing happened and even now. And I think this is something which in India, being a democratic nation, anybody is free to say anything. But my only request or my only submission is that whenever a nation goes through such period, at least at that particular period of time, it is very important to show political maturity by all. And I don't want to take any names because that's not correct on my part. But I do believe that there has to be political maturity shown by all, irrespective of whichever party, government, or whichever way it is. Because at this point, everybody is watching us. How is the reaction coming from our parliament, from our political, the people who matters? So what I could just say is that, ma'am, that the army will do its function, its duty, whatever it has to do. It has been doing it, irrespective of whichever government comes into into our nation. But what it requires is kind of unbiased support at all times, which at times I feel there are people who put political interest ahead of national interest.
But to play the devil's advocate, the counter to that given is that we are not questioning the army. Don't hide behind the army. We are questioning the lackadaisical approach of the government.
Ma'am, like, for example, if somebody says that that we have not, our response has been weak. Okay, the Chinese have allowed to come inside. Now, who has allowed the Chinese to come inside? I'm sure none of the political leaders are standing there. It's the Indian army who's standing there. So if then the Indian army is, giving it a fight to say that, people have come inside. Today also I was hearing, even after the defense minister very categorically said that there was a incident and they were sent back. Now to put, like, for example, if you say border, this is not a border, it's a disputed area. There's a difference between a border and a disputed area. If somebody has come inside disputed area, to push that patrol party back is not a violation of our sovereign that kind of thing. So the level is raised towards as if we are losing territory and such like thing, which is
okay. When you're making such allegations, you may say that there is no question being raised about the army, but the insinuation and the fingers also point in that direction. George Kurian.
Well, again, I would like to, for your views, I would like to say that today's speech, it looks like it's a very pre-decided, planned speech that the Home Minister came out with to counter the Congress party because he knew very well, that the opposition, including the Congress, would demand for a discussion in the floor of the House. So he was well prepared to counter the Congress party. That's why he had the list of series of events post 1962 that he had brought to the people's notice. So the only thing I would like to point it here, that the government has all the state machinery and the forces with them. Why doesn't it go ahead and take the land that the Congress could not secure when they were in power? So they should go ahead and take the land which has gone into the Chinese side.
All right, sir, that is pinning very high hopes on the government. You're saying that even the land that we ceded when the Congress was in power should now be taken back by this government. We certainly hope that the BJP and the government is listening. Thanks very much, meanwhile, for joining us, all gentlemen. And let's again remind our viewers that the politics aside, the facts on the ground may be very, very different. Don't let your judgment be clouded by the rhetoric. Quick break.